Please be seated. We're back on the record in State versus Madden, CR 22121675. Mr. Burris and Mr. Hahn are present on behalf of the state of Ohio, and Mr. Wilder is present on behalf of Mr. Madden. Mr. Madden is appearing remotely on another location in this building, and he is able to hear these proceedings. Okay, so I've been advised that the jury has a verdict. However, some concerns were brought to my attention during the recess that I'd like to address at this time, and I'd like to ask Sergeant Owens to please take the witness stand. Sergeant, would you please state your name?
Sergeant Jason Owens.
And what is your occupation, sir?
I'm a sergeant with the Butler County Sheriff's Office.
And what are your present duties?
I'm the supervisor over court security.
And Sergeant, in your capacity, did you have the opportunity to go to the remote location where Mr. Madden is viewing these proceedings?
Yes, I did.
And at any point while you were present with Mr. Madden, did he make any statements that caused you concern about his return to this courtroom?
Yes, he advised his attorney that if he were not wearing restraints, that his attorney was lucky that he was currently wearing restraints, implying that he would inflict physical harm if he were not.
And did Mr. Madden advise in your presence whether he even wanted to return to this courtroom?
He advised my personnel that he did not wish to return.
All right, very well. Anything on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Wilder, any questions that you have?
No.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant. You may step down. In light of the Sergeant's testimony, I'm going to continue to have Mr. Madden participate in the proceedings outside of this courtroom.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So I understand the jury has reached a verdict, and we are waiting on the state's representative.
You should be here momentarily.
Okay. Well, we'll go off the record for just a moment. In at this time. Please be seated. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you have reached a verdict in this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and who is our foreperson? Okay, would you please return the verdict forms to Mr. Halcomb? Verdict form number 1. We, the jury, being duly impaneled, find the defendant, Toby Madden, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. The verdict form is signed in ink by all 12 jurors. Verdict form 2. We, the jury, being duly impaneled, find the defendant, Toby Madden, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. The verdict form is signed in ink by all 12 jurors. Verdict form 3. We, the jury, being duly impaneled, find the defendant, Toby Madden, guilty of felonious assault as charged in the indictment. The verdict form is signed in ink by all 12 jurors. And finally, verdict form 4, we, the jury, being duly impaneled, find the defendant, Toby Madden, guilty of felonious assault as charged in the indictment, and the verdict form is signed in ink by all 12 jurors. Okay. Does the state of Ohio wish to have the jury polled?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
On behalf of the defendant, do you wish to have the jury polled, Mr. Wilder? Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your attention in this matter, and I appreciate your patience with us during some of the breaks that we had to have and the concentration that you had throughout these proceedings. And on behalf of the public, I want to express my sincere appreciation for your services in performing this most important function. The judicial system, as we know it in the United States, is the finest in the world, and it is so very important in preserving the property and liberty and the rights of citizens that you are willing to agree to serve as jurors in this case. By your being here and participating, you are helping to guarantee the continued existence of law and social order in our society. So you have my thanks. And I'd also like to thank the attorneys in this matter for their professionalism. I have had you under an order that you could not speak about this case. Now that you have rendered your verdict, you are permitted, I will release you from that order. You are permitted to speak with anyone that you wish to about this case. You are not required to speak to anyone, but that will be your choice alone. In addition, I gave you restrictions about looking at things and investigating things. All of the orders that I gave you you're now released from those. And again, I appreciate your service very much. So you are discharged with the thanks of the court. I would ask that you return briefly to the jury room. Thank you. Okay, please be seated. And the jurors have been excused from the courtroom. Our next order of business is to take up the repeat violent offender specification. The court has reviewed State Exhibit 251. Is there anything else that the state of Ohio would like to put on the record with regards to that?
I think I put on the record, I did file notice of intent to use certified convictions proof of the prior conviction. That was filed on January 11th, 2024. There's a felonious assault conviction, aggravated assault, which I don't think that part counts. It is the felonious assault is the count 4. It's in CR 88030207, so I would ask the court to find Toby Madden to be a repeat violent offender.
Any argument on that, Mr. Wilder?
No, Judge. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. The court has carefully reviewed the exhibit and is going to find Mr. Madden guilty of that specification and will find that he is a repeat violent offender. Okay. Next thing that I need to ask is everyone to prepare to go forward with sentencing this afternoon.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right. Before we proceed to that, the conviction will require that Mr. Madden enroll as a violent offender pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 2903.41. And, of course, we can continue that hearing. The basis for rebutting that, the presumption that the court place him on that registration would be that he is not the principal offender. I haven't heard any testimony that would suggest that that would be necessary. Mr. Wilder, do you oppose going forward today?
I would agree with that. No opposition to going forward. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to give Mr. Madden some advisements, and there will be a form that I'll ask the deputies to have him sign and so that he can have a copy of it when we've concluded our hearing. Sir, you have been convicted of or pleaded guilty to a qualifying violent offender offense as defined in Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.41. If you are not sentenced to a prison term, you are required to enroll in the violent offender database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside 10 days after being sentenced. If you were sentenced to a prison term, you must enroll in the database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside 10 days after release from jail. If you are an out-of-state offender, you must enroll in the database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside or occupy a dwelling within 10 days of either 1, residing or occupying in a dwelling in Ohio for more than 3 consecutive days, or 2, residing in or occupying a dwelling in Ohio for an aggregate period in a calendar year of 14 or more days. You are required to provide to the sheriff certain information, including your full name and alias you use, your residence address, your social security number, any driver's license number or commercial driver's license number or state identification card number issued to you, information regarding the offense of which you were convicted or pleaded guilty, the name and address of any place where you are employed, the name and address of any school or institution of higher education you attend, the license plate number of each vehicle owned or operated by you or registered in your name, the vehicle identification number of each vehicle, and a description of each vehicle, a description of any scars, tattoos, or other distinguishing marks on your person. You are required to provide the sheriff fingerprints and palm prints. The sheriff will also obtain a photograph of you at the time of enrollment. After the date of initial enrollment, you are required to re-enroll annually. You must update and or amend any of the information described above that has changed and provide any additional information requested at the county sheriff's office within 10 days of the anniversary of the calendar date on which you were initially enrolled. If you change your residence address during the 10-year enrollment period, you shall provide written notice of that change to the sheriff with whom you most recently enrolled and to the sheriff in the county in which you intend to reside within 3 business days of the change of address. You are required to comply with all of the above described requirements for a period of 10 years unless your sentencing court determines otherwise. Failure to enroll or failure to verify residence at the specified times will result in criminal prosecution. And so that is the form, and I will go ahead and sign that at this point, and we will have Mr. Madden sign that when we have completed our hearing. Anything else on that issue from the state?
I don't believe so, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything on behalf of the defendant?
Nothing, Judge, thank you.
Okay. All right, then let's go ahead and discuss sentencing. First, I'd like to ask if the state of Ohio, if you believe any of these offenses are allied offenses of similar import.
The answer would be yes, Your Honor. I will, since the jury's found Mr. Madden guilty on all 4 counts, and I believe the court found him to be a repeat violent offender, which I think would be on all 4 counts, I would agree that counts 2, 3, and 4 would be allied offenses to count 1, and I'd ask that 2, 3, and 4 be merged into count 1.
Great. Do you wish to be heard on that issue, Mr. Wilder?
No, I would agree with that, Mark.
All right, then the court will merge counts 2, 3, and 4 into count 1, and we will proceed with sentencing on count 1. Okay, is there any mitigation that you'd like to offer on behalf of your client at this time, Mr. Wilder?
Judge, anticipating Mr. Madden will file an appeal in this case, which I will do for him. I have nothing further to say. I would note that I believe the RVO specification and any sentence on that would be discretionary as opposed to mandatory, but nothing further.
All right, at this time, I would ask our information technology specialist to please unmute the video feed. And Mr. Madden, if there's anything that you'd like to say on your own behalf, you're welcome to say it at this time.
Well, I would like to say something, Your Honor. I found it. I'm truly sorry to my family, to Michaela, Sherry, Ginger, Morgan, Megan, Maya, not the Megan, Maya, Morgan, and Jim, Alex, and Brandon, John, and all of her friends, Carlita, Christy, Dawn, and I told Mr. Wilder that I'm responsible, that I committed this offense, and I told him how, and I told him what happened. I went into detail, and I told him what happened, and for some reason he chose to allow the state to perform an act up there in the state that I tried to hide everything that I'd done, and I didn't do it. I never mentioned that one time that I didn't do it. I told these officers, these deputies, that I done it, and he knows that too. And for whatever reason, the mistake decided, he decided not to put up the exhibit number that I requested. He never pulled up the phone records. He never went and asked for the. Have you ever seen a murder trial where there's never been the interview produced to be seen? Not even on TV and A and B movies, but I understand why. He had an agenda, and but at this point in time,
I'm objecting to
I
that.
accept the court's decision.
Sustained.
But it's if there's anyone out there that wants to get to the bottom of it, and you're able to come and really see, you see that that there's some discrepancies here that aren't matching up, and there's so many that I can put you on the trail to, and the kibbles and bits are laying right on the floor. But when you're poor, this man I never saw for almost 4 months.
All right, Mr. Madden, I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, let's go ahead and mute it.
2 days before it was time to go to trial discussion, now he says, hey, listen, I'm going to be able to prove through logs that I showed up.
Okay.
You don't have to mute it. You don't have to mute it. I'll stop going into detail, but I'll tell you this.
I'm interested in hearing anything that you want to tell me as to why I should give you, how I should sentence you.
Well, I just want you to know this. To my family, you know, all the years, if it did please you to know that somebody is suffering, I don't presume to know the pain that you're going through. I don't presume to know the pain that you're going through, but and I don't understand it, but I can tell you, you don't know the pain that I'm going through, knowing that I'm the one that caused this tragedy, and if if there's any solace, there's any silver lining in knowing that when I go to bed, it's on my mind. When I wake up in the morning, that's on my mind. When I think about SeaWorld in San Diego, I think about walking on the beach in Florida, the chalet in Gatlinburg in February. I think about all the years, all the meals that we've had together, the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, the summers. It's these feelings, these emotions are.
All right. It appears the audio has been turned off at this time. Any objections to that, Mr. Wilder?
To the audio being
Yes,
turned
sir.
off? No objection to that. I would, if I may.
You
because
may.
we can televise.
Yes, sir.
Without getting into specifics, obviously honoring the attorney-client privilege that I've held with Mr. Madden for 9 months, I can say that the specifics of the before, during, and after were never brought to my attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, if there are any victims' representatives that wish to address the court will hear those statements.
I believe Michaela Madden is the first one that's going to address the court. Would you like her at the podium? Would you like her at the witness stand?
The podium's fine, since it's here. What would you like to tell me, ma'am?
I would just like to speak about my mom. That's good.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm a little shaky.
Keep your time.
You're fine.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Michaela Madden. I'm Rasha Bursaw's daughter and our only child. I wanted to make this statement because I want you to know more about my mother, Rasha Bursaw. She meant so much to our family and friends. Her death has created a huge hole in our lives from which we will never recover. Rochelle, my mother, was the youngest of 4 children. She was the baby of the family. But she wasn't just a sister and a daughter. She was also an aunt, a neighbor, a friend, a member of the community, and perhaps her most important role, a mother and grandmother. As an only child, I had the benefits of all her love and attention. She always sought to have that everything I needed. She taught me to be respectful and to be well-mannered, to work hard and help others. She dedicated her life to serve. She was a nurse, and I'm following in her footsteps and hoping to become a nurse. I mentioned that my mom was also a grandmother. I'll never forget how thrilled she was to have a granddaughter. My mom relished on every moment that she had with my daughter, Layla. After I had Layla, I noticed a change in her. My mom wanted to leave her life with Toby Madden in the past. She was focused on and excited for a better life filled with love for me and her granddaughter, Layla. This has been unimaginable for me and my family. But how can I tell you who my mom was? It's impossible to express in words who my mom was and the impact this had on our family. I will miss the big things. She loved animals, especially dogs, butterflies, and dolphins. She went out of her way to help everyone. She had no enemies. She was hilarious and smart. She had an infectious laugh. And she and I were so very close. We talked about everything. She's my best friend. The one thing that got in the way and we disagreed with was Toby Madden. He was the man that my mother set out to change. He was the man who came in and out of our lives because all he did was take. All he did was take. He was never a loving partner for her, and he was not a good dad. I mentioned that my mom always focused on others. She took care of him through thick and thin. But Toby's only interest was to put us down. All of her accomplishments. But I have made a better impact on my life than he ever will. People ask me if I'm better or if time has healed me. I will never get over losing my mother. Her life should have never ended so tragically. My mom was a healthy 50-year-old woman. She was full of life. She was ready to move on to the next chapter in her life from Toby. A chapter full of things to do, places to go, and happiness. My life will go on. I will raise my daughter, and Toby Madden will fade into the past for me and my family. There are going to be days that Toby will wonder about us, but he will never know what is going on in our lives, and he will never get the chance to see his granddaughter grow old. Even though Toby Madden ended my sweet mother's life, she will always be with me. He's not going to end our lives, but his selfish, disgusting act of taking my mother's life will end his life as well. I know she's in heaven with God and her mother and father and sister and brother who have also passed. But I would give anything to talk to her one more time, to see her be silly and laugh with my daughter, Layla. But I know I will never, because Toby took that away from us. And I just want to say thank you to the court, thank you to the judge, thank you to the police officers, detectives, my family and friends, for everything that you've done.
I'm very sorry for your loss, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the court, Mr. Burrs? Ma'am, if you could tell me your name and your relationship to the victim, please.
Hi, my name is Ginger Halcomb. I'm niece of Rochelle Russo. Our rules have changed forever, and when I say our, I mean my Aunt Rochelle, our family, and her best friends. I know they say when you're a good Christian that you'll forgive what he did one day. But forgiveness or not, our family asks that Toby Madden gets life in prison without parole for brutally murdering our aunt. She has taken so much from us. He's a repetitive violent offender that has a track record to prove at the age of 52 that he has no chance of rehabilitation. Our local community itself is not safe with him unless he is behind bars the remainder of his life. Knowing that he doesn't have a chance to victimize our family anymore is the only way that we'll get time to process everything and start to heal. Over the course of 26 years, our family has been victims of so much violence because of his erratic, violent behavior. There are too many to even mention and not enough time to talk about. We have all been emotionally drained, having to wait 2 selfish years due to the delay tactics. The continual delays feel like it was his last selfish act to resort to torment our family further. Waking up every day to realize that your aunt is gone forever. It's not only like a second mother, but a best friend. Is torture in itself. The nightmares continue to invade our lives as we try to hold each other together. We worry about what happens if he would get out. Do we have to relocate, change our names, or do we ever have to face this monster ever again? For my aunt to lose her life alone due to this vicious predator, life in prison is an easy choice to be given. At the end of the day, he still will have his life, even if it's behind bars. All I can ask of you is to please choose life in prison and to give him the maximum sentence of being a violent, repetitive offender so that our family is safe. Our family, the Halcomb family, the Broussard family, we want to thank everyone that's been a part of this case from the beginning to the end to the jury. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments, Sam. I do need to let you know that this statute does not give me the authority to impose a sentence of life without parole, but I will consider your comments when I make the decisions that I have the authority to make. And I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else from the state of Ohio, Mr. Burris or Mr. Hahn?
One other thing I would like to say, I would like to thank the City of Hamilton Police Department for their work on this case. I know there's maybe 3 officers that testified, but there are many more that were part of this case, and justice would not have been served today without all their efforts. So thank you.
Very well. All right. Well, the court has considered the purposes and principles of sentencing in Revised Code Section 292911 and the seriousness and recidivism factors in Revised Code Section 292912, as well as the penalties that are statutory penalties that are associated with the offense and the specification. The court is also considering the record and the charge and the statements made at this hearing, and the court on count 1 is going to impose the mandatory sentence of an indefinite mandatory minimum term of 15 years in prison and a maximum term of life imprisonment in the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. As to the repeat violent offender specification, the court is going to impose 10 years, and it will be consecutive to the sentence. The court is imposing the maximum of 10 years because this offense was, quite frankly, so gruesome. The court finds that the defendant is a danger to the public, and the court relies on the Exhibit 251 and the offenses that Mr. Madden has previously been convicted of in support of those findings. The court is going to run this sentence in this case consecutive to the sentence in case number CR 22101423, and the court is running it consecutive because it believes that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime and to punish the offender. The court further finds that consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the seriousness of the offender's conduct and to the danger that he poses to the public. And the court finds that the offender's history of criminal conduct demonstrates that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime by the offender. The court is also going to impose court costs as a part of the sentence, and the court will award 316 days of jail time credit. Are there any other findings that the state wishes for the court to make at this time?
So it's 15 years to life. The RVO is consecutive. I think that's by law, isn't it? Any sentence on the RVO is consecutive at all. And what was Judge Stevens' case number?
That is a CR 22101423.
I don't believe there's anything else, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything on behalf of the defendant.
Sure. Judge, I don't know if this is required or not. Should there be any advisement at all about PRC at all, given the sentence? May not. I was just making sure we're clear before we left.
My understanding that it does not, because of the indefinite nature of this sentence, the defendant would be subject to parole rather than post-release control. Does the state have any objection to the court's findings? Okay.
Nothing further than.
And then the final thing that I would indicate that this defendant does have a right of appeal, and he has 30 days from the date that the conviction entry is filed to file that notice of appeal.
I will file that for him,
Thank you.
understanding that he will have a new attorney on the field.
Yes, sir.
Thank
All right.
you, Judge.
Well, again, I thank the counsel for their professionalism, and at this time we will recess on this matter. Thank you.